And we're back on today's episode of Relationships at Denike, and we're having the Man Cave episode. Just before we went on the break, we were just talking about some of the stereotypes that the media portrays about men, and how most of the time, they go from one extreme to the other. But I do believe that there's a place for godly men to sort of set the standard, to be leaders, to articulate, what real leadership should be as a man. But can you really articulate something if we don't even acknowledge that, most men struggle, like we said, with their identity, with knowing who they are, having been, raised up to be strong, not show any emotion, and to be a provider. Do you feel at times there's a lot of pressure? Chris, I don't know if you can help me out, and let's make it this personal. What sort of pressure do you think the average man is under that a woman does not always understand, in his mind? When we look at the mind of a man, what kind of pressures do you feel men face on a daily basis?
I think there's always this notion that the man should always know what he needs to do in that moment. So in case anything comes up, the woman is always expecting that the guy should know what to do, how to handle it immediately. Yes. But unfortunately, sometimes the guy does not know what's going on, does not know how to handle the situation. And in some cases, we as guys, we need some time to figure out how to go or handle a situation. And unfortunately, sometimes women do not give guys that room. And once they try to step away and just calm down, think and be like, well, she wants to know something, let me give her an answer, but I need time to think. She's already coming down somebody's face or somebody's throat about the answer. So unfortunately, I think there's this notion that guys know everything, but just like women, guys don't know everything. And sometimes we're not given the benefit of the doubt to figure things out, and it should be fine that we don't know everything all the time.
Wow, that's a good. Do you all agree with that?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, I think after this show, my husband is going to sure get a pass now. Because I'm like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I'm still waiting is not something we do as women, But I think just thinking about that, and you guys seem to have this understanding. As women, we leverage so much on our relationships, on our friendships, but there's also another stereotype, we're looking at the mind of a man, that men are, in a cave, want to do their own thing. Do men have friends? And when I say friends, not just football buddies and discuss, cars, but do they have close, heartfelt discussions, that level of discussions?
Those relationships with the ones with the sports guy are actually very important. And
Right.
I'll tell you, the reason why is a man is created to be the head. It has that role. And so you see a lot of times men have an issue struggling, or they struggle because it's hard to submit to authority. In the sense that I go to work, I have a boss who's over me, who's telling me what to do. I'm going home, I see billboards that are telling me the man forgets, all these things. So there's all this pressure telling you that you're not living up to your standard as a man. Then you get home, that's why some guys love video games, because you want to win at something. And that's why you love your buddies who are sports buddies, because then you guys can share a hoorah moment together, like, hey, we're winning, it's a sports thing. So men want to feel sometimes like, oh, I at least I was able to accomplish this, I was able to win this. Even if it's not me personally, hey, my team, Eagles won, Super Bowl.
Eagles.
But sometimes that's what it is. So those friendships are important. And the men do have close friends. There are friends that I have that I can stay soft to, that I can't tell my wife sometimes, because you have those people who are non-judgmental, and you have those friends who you've known since you were little kids, yes, and who have your back all the way. So some of those people, you feel they know that even though you might not seem like you're winning outside, to them you'd always be a winner.
I love that. That's so interesting. When we're talking about what are some of the myths that men have, one of the ones that we hear at times is that men have egos, and that their egos can be quite fragile. So when I love the point you made about sometimes it's just that sense of winning that the average man is looking for. How is a man's ego so I don't know what the best word to use, so aligned with who he is? It's at the core of who he is. And most times I don't think women really understand that in how we interact with men, and how very easily we hurt men. What are some of your own feelings and your own thoughts on that?
As far as with the whole ego thing, I think it's just about pride in yourself. I know there's things that say in the Bible that you're not really supposed to be too prideful, but I know a lot of men who coexist with each other that don't really have any type of sense of direction. They put a lot of pride in who they are.
Right.
Like they mold themselves into, like they want to be a very, they want to be a person who's out there that everyone's always looking for an answer. So they always have an answer for something. But they have a man who wants to sit in the back. He wants to sit in the back, and he knows that he just wants to observe. But like for men who, I know women, they do sometimes they may try, like a man's pride, that there's always something that I mean, it makes me upset, that when someone tells me I'm not man enough. How do you not know how do you know what makes me a man? Like you don't understand what I have to go through emotionally and physically throughout each day. Like I know men, they size themselves up. Men, they do that. They do it in the way that they dress, to how they talk, how they play sports when you're growing up. Like we do, like we gloat about what we do. Like I make this much money, and then someone wants to come and like, you know what, I made this much money this week. So there's always a sense of competition, like who's top dog. We do it amongst ourselves. We don't know why we compete against each other, but we just do. And it's also a sense to where, like, if you look at the animal kingdom, males do the same thing too. They fight each other to have a mate, while the woman just sits there, the female just sits there. The men actually fight, and it's just something that in human nature that we just do it, and we want to make ourselves look good and be portrayed a certain way, just so people can perceive us and how we want them to see how we are.
I love that. So that's just phenomenal, and it just made me think, and maybe I'll ask Brandon, how damaging, if I should say, if ladies are all listening to this, and yes, we're trying to understand the man and woman, but how damaging are the words of a woman when she goes against a man's ego, his pride, or compares him to another man? What? Because when I think about what they just said,
you never want to compare a man to another man. I think that's the worst thing you can do.
Wow.
Like you said, men we're very pride. And have big egos. I mean, it's not, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having a big ego, as long as it's not overboard. Competition is normal, and for a woman to say we're less of a man or we're not doing what we're supposed to be, we're not man enough, that's going to tear your man down, especially if he's working hard and trying to provide for a family, and he feels underappreciated. That's going to hurt your family. So. Those words, it might not. They say words don't hurt, but they can.
Right.
And over time, if you hear the same thing over and over, you're trying to do the best for your family, but you're being torn down as a man. Then you either go see somebody else,
right?
So we'll see another woman on the outside that's building that man up and giving him the words. It might be a woman at work that always gives him words that he's not getting at home and things like that. So.
That's interesting. Now I know that because I'm the only woman in the cave right now. But trust me, I just heard hundreds of women's voice just now when Brandon said, you don't have the right. So let me bring a question. Let me channel the question that I know most women want to ask. In a relationship, it takes two to make things work, and at times, one of the things that you guys have said over here is that. Sometimes when a man doesn't know the answer to a situation or there's a challenge, he needs time. Now, part of the challenge for women is that time is not always controlled. That time could be 2 months or 3 months or 4 months of issues, and you find out whereby it's not one of those short-term issues. These are long-term things or things that go on in families or in relationships and the rest of it. So, when I do appreciate, the point you made about the importance of a woman validating her man and all of that. But what happens, and I don't know if we can handle everything in this session, but, when we start to talk about, what really goes on in the mind of a man when he does not feel appreciated, is it ever justified? That because your wife isn't appreciating enough, or you don't feel the significant woman in your life, is doing the right thing by you, is it ever justified for you to cheat on her?
No, it doesn't justify you to have any type of infidelity. Like as a man, like we're
I love
as born, we're given the job to lead once we become married. As soon as we become a husband, we're there to lead, and we have God providing for us. So as a man, we work really hard. Not to take away from what women do, but men work really, really hard. They're looked at by their children, by their wives, by their family to do a lot, to bring the family together, to support the family, to make things work.
Right.
And then men will work at ends for his family. Me personally, I'll work ends for my family. I'll work ends for my significant other. I'll do whatever I have to do to make things happen. If they want to do sports, I'll get them into sports, regardless of how much I have to sacrifice. And there's a lot of sacrifice. I can't speak as a parent because I'm not a parent, but there's a lot of sacrifice as a man when it comes to supporting his family, supporting his significant other, and also helping those around him, just depending on what kind of heart he has. But for a man, he doesn't really need to ask for much. I know me personally, I don't really ask for much. The only thing I kind of want is just to feel appreciated. It's just to get a thank you, or just to get something like, I'm thinking about you. I want to appreciate the stuff that you've done, because men will give up hours and hours and lose a lot of sleep in order to do things that other people would like to accomplish or like to, to have.
Do you mind if I?
Yes. Yeah.
So, like, if you think about what he said, I mean, it's very significant. What he said that a man wants to feel appreciated, and just as much as a woman wants to feel appreciated too. When she doesn't get that appreciation, she looks for it somewhere else,
right.
Just as a man does. So it's not. I don't think it has to do with justification. It has to do with that we're human, and sometimes when you don't feel as if you're validated, and I think that's a key word. When you don't feel validated in any type of relationship that you're in, what happened as a human, you try to look for that validation somewhere else.
It's a
and
need
even,
that you have.
of course, yeah. So it's that natural need. You know what I mean? Like, anyone wants to feel validated. Even as a person, you want to feel validated as you. Someone looks at you as I'm a person, I'm a human being. And if you don't get that, then you tend to do things that is out of character that normally you yourself wouldn't think that you would do it also as well. I think that's what's key. I think sometimes we have to bring it back, and we have to realize at the end of the day, is it a human characteristic that's a flaw, no matter if it's a man and a woman? That is the issue, and how do you deal with those things when you succumb to the aspect of not feeling validated with a significant other?
I love that. That's a very interesting perspective.
I just want to say, so what he said about men giving so much, I think sometimes we tend to forget. Oftentimes women give a lot more, and we don't realize it, and we don't see it, because they can harbor so more. And I feel like women in general are much stronger, and they can endure so much. I'm trying to come from a married person's perspective, and my example of what a marriage is from what I learned from my family. And my mom went through a whole lot. Now that I'm an adult, that I realize and I can understand that my dad could never have gone through. I don't know if because she has the strength to bear all that, but she endured so much. And I just want to say we shouldn't forget that. But at the same time, when you get married, you have to walk into the marriage with the understanding that I'm the head of the household, I'm Lord over this house, and I have to shoulder the bulk of the responsibilities. So when your wife is spazzing out, or she insults your manhood, you have to understand that as the head of the household, there are a lot of things you have to bear. So you might just have to brush it off or brush your ego aside for the sake of peace. So it's almost like you have to go in there expecting that those kind of things will happen. So you know that if it ever happens, and she compares you to another man, you don't do the first thing to go and cheat on her, just like you said, or so you almost have to be expecting.
There's a need for a lot of self-control. Yes, that
and
a man has to carry that a lot.
And that's when you need positive people around you. That's when you need God around you, because it's so easy.
Right.
You just tell yourself, this is my excuse, screw you.
Wow.
It's so easy to just slip up. It's very easy. I know that because
it all comes back to
you're a man.
but it all comes back to, again, knowing who you are, and also what you want. That part is very key, because you don't go into a relationship just like, I'll just wing it, whatever happens happens, because you're always gonna fall back to your default, whichever that is will be it. But if you come into something, say, okay, I know who I am and what I want in this particular relationship, you will want to work towards that. And not only just that, you will want to work with your partner towards
But
that.
but now, so this is very interesting. So we have single men and we have married men. And, I find that the conversation we're having is so enriching because there are a couple of dynamics here that sometimes we need to have a balance from sometimes the ideal to also what happens in reality, because I think what you just said, Tokwe, is so right. That is the ideal situation, of what it should be. And I think what Boyga was just saying right now is the reality. And what Timmy was trying to say is that the reality is, in relationships, one of my favorite books of all times is His Needs, Her Needs. And it just really breaks down for us to understand how, when our needs are not being met, our needs are so powerful that we're not designed for it to be unmet for a long time. And when things start happening and it takes that amount of time, we tend to see people out of character. And it can be quite interesting that, just the pressure that can bring. I have a couple of things that, I'd like to just have you guys just touch on a bit more in our next segment. And then I want everyone to give me one thing that you feel that is a life lesson that you've learned that you'd like to share with us. We'll be right back.